Weapon Mastery allows Dagger to be used on other mesmer builds than a Virtuoso, and in some ways this is worse because you have traits in Virtuoso that allow you to get bleeding on your blade attacks and vulnerability on your blade attacks, but as a Mirage, you gain access to the Dagger Ambush, and the Dagger Ambush is a daze which also applies bleeding and torment, and when combined with Infinite Horizon, you can get multiple dazes, and there's lots of traits that allow you to get value out of interrupts and dazes in the dueling and domination trait lines. So I'm going to show a Dagger Mirage build here. There's already a really good power Mirage build with Greatsword, so I feel like the way that this build gets its identity is through a Celestial build. So we're going to be showing how I play that, how I build it, and some clips as well. So let's start out with the gear. I use the Celestial stats with Rune of the Traveler. Mirage needs movement speed, so you always need a movement speed rune. You don't get access to swiftness any other way. Then I go for a sword and torch with energy cleansing sigils, and a dagger and a pistol with energy cleansing sigils. Energy sigils are the most important thing on Mirages because you need to dodge to not only survive but also deal damage. That's also why I take the Relic of Evasion, which gives you vigor for 5 seconds after evading an attack. Mirages also get a trait that gives them more condition damage while they have vigor, so this is once again even more synergy here. Now cleansing sigil is also really important because this build lacks condition cleanse. Otherwise you've only got the torch 4 and jaunt as your only condi cleanses otherwise. Now you can take the mantra of resolve if you really want to, but I like to use mimic instead because it gives you a lot more playmaking potential. It's more fun, and I feel like you should just dodge the conditions. But if you didn't want to take cleansing sigil, you could go for something like torment or earth just to apply more pressure to your target. So for the traits, we take dueling, domination, mirage. In dueling, we have a lot of access to vigor whenever you crit, fury whenever you crit, and you get bleeding whenever your illusions crit as well. And this is really important because you're going to want to have up a lot of clones, and when they passively crit with their dagger attacks from range, they're going to apply a lot of bleeding over time. So this adds a lot of pressure. You really need the dueling trait line. Also, we take the Duelist Discipline, which gives our Pistol 4 a lot of bleeding to add more burst. And whenever we interrupt enemies, we're going to recharge our pistol skills faster. So this is really important to get your pistol skills out there a lot so you can keep adding more bleeding and also get that stun out more often. And we're interrupting a lot because we're constantly using that ambush, which is a daze. Also, we want to get our Shatter F2 to give out blindness. You could go for the evasive mirror if you want, but I feel like the blind has a lot more utility and control in my actions. And then we're going to go for deceptive evasion because whenever you dodge, you get an extra clone. And every time you dodge, you want to be doing an ambush. So this pumps up your ambush with Infinite Horizon so that your clones are going to be doing more of those ambushes every time you dodge because you're going to have more clones out. And then we've got domination. There's not really a good option here, so just take Rending Shatter. Then go for Furious Interruption for the quickness whenever you interrupt an enemy, though you could go for Shattered Concentration. This build is countered by stability because you can't daze a target when they have stability, and even though you're dazing multiple times every ambush, you can only remove 1 stack of stability every like 0.75 second interval. So you're not going to get through anyone's stability just by brute forcing it. So you can either go for Shattered Concentration, but this isn't the best because you don't want to be shattering your clones. You want to just have them up and using the Infinite Horizon to get those ambushes. So what you could do is instead of taking Desert Distortion, which gives you way more ambushes and in general is just probably a lot more defensive and offensive at the same time in most situations, what you can do is you can go for Mirage Mantle, and this makes your sword ambush do a boon removal. And this is really important against really heavy stability classes and stuff like that, but you're going to be a lot more susceptible to being attacked yourself. So use this in like group play to take the Mirage Mantle so you can have Boon Rip. And then when you're solo, you probably want Desert Distortion because you can just choose who you can fight, right? If you're against someone who's got stability, then just leave. But in Domination, we've also got Dazzling and Fragility. Whenever you daze a target, you will give them vulnerability, and you get 25 stacks of vulnerability very quickly because you're dazing so often with this build. Power block is also extremely important on this build because whenever you interrupt an enemy, you give them weakness, you give them a flat damage, and you will increase the cooldown of that attack by 15 seconds. Normally when you interrupt someone, their skill goes on a 4-second cooldown, but with power block, that's a 15-second cooldown. So it's not like they can just use their heal skill right after they get interrupted. That skill is gone for quite some time. Then in Mirage, we're going to go for Renewing Oasis. Just gives us some regeneration whenever we dodge. This is really important because we need more sustain because the build is pretty aggressive otherwise on the traits. We don't have really any protection, so we need some sustain here. And then we're going to get, obviously, the Vigor is going to give us condition damage modifiers here. And then we go for Desert Distortion. And then there's Infinite Horizon, which makes our clones able to ambush whenever we can ambush, which is essentially by dodging or gaining Mirage Cloak by getting one of those Mirage Mirrors. So you can get those Mirage Mirrors by using your heal skill or by using Distortion with all of your clones up. So we're going to get all of these clones up, and you can see Desert Distortion gives all of these. So you want to step in these mirrors here, and then that'll give you access to your ambush. But you want to generate clones before you step into those because your clones do get to ambush when you step into those mirrors. And that's going to do a lot of damage. As you can see, the target gets 25 vulnerability very fast. And when you've got 3 clones up, that's a lot of bleeding and torment being put on there as well. So mostly what you want to be doing is casting your Phantasmal Duelist, using your Dagger 2, which creates a clone, and then that'll give you 2 clones, and then you dodge. That's 3 clones, and then you ambush, and that's a lot of damage there from your ambushes. You can double dodge there as well, but you want to be careful with your dodges. You mostly want to be dodging something and then counter attacking with your ambush. If you just spam all of your dodges out, then you're going to be susceptible to damage. So just depending on the situation, if you're not getting attacked, then you can obviously use all your dodges, but if you're being attacked, you want to time your dodges a little bit better. Also, you do want to be using your sword a lot. You don't just want to use Dagger. There are some builds out there like Staff and Dagger, and those builds have absolutely no mobility. They're free kills. You want to be swapping to your sword often, so you want to get used to the order and the positioning for that, because that's the true Mesmer gameplay. So what you want to do is you have an energy sigil. So when you're about ready to swap to your sword, you want to dodge because you don't want to be at max energy because you have an energy sigil trigger. You dodge, then you swap weapon. That'll give you the energy sigil trigger. You still have your access to your ambush, and then you want to detarget and use your sword because you can use the dodge from your dagger as the ambush for your sword, and that'll give you a lot more dodges for your sword leaps. So I could essentially, what I could have done there was dodge, go into sword, use a sword leap, and then I have 2 more dodges where I can sword leap out. So that's 3 sword leaps in a row. Similarly, I could do the same with a sword into dagger. So I could be sitting here getting ready to do my burst here or whatever. I do the torch 5, torch 4, dodge, swap, dagger ambush, dodge, dagger ambush, dodge, dagger ambush, and that can be a lot of damage right there. So yeah, that's mostly the idea, is you want to be swapping between your sword and your dagger depending on which playstyle you need for the situation, because the build is not extremely tanky. Even though it's a celestial build, you have extremely aggressive trait lines. So you want to be using your dagger ambush when you can pressure the target, and then when you're out of dodges, swap to your sword, get that D target, leap away, kite, use your positioning, get ready for another burst, let your clones pressure the target, then go back in with stealth, and then you want to burst the target with the pistol 5, jaunt on them, and use the jaunt F2 combo, which can give a decent amount of confusion, and then swap back into that dagger, keep pressuring the target with that dagger ambush. Illusionary Ambush is a pretty interesting utility because it randomly ports you around the target, which also breaks enemy targeting, so it's like a 0.1 second stealth, and then it puts all of your clones on that new target. So if you got 3 clones on one target, now you can have 3 clones on another target. But what is interesting is that the random location is really good if you can understand how it works. So for example, if I am at max range from this target, the possible locations that it can port me are all over here. So if I'm on the edge of that range, I will be ported in that direction. So it generally ports you toward the target if you're at max range, because those are all the possible locations you can port to. But if you're really close to the target, then it's possible that you could get ported away from the target. So depending on your positioning to the target, you can kind of control how your illusionary ambush is going to react based on just like simple logic. So if I say am like running from a bunch of people from this direction, I know that using illusionary ambush on this mob or enemy over here is going to get me in that direction, and I can use that to kite. And illusionary ambush is also another mirage cloak, and you can use it while you're stunned, whereas dodging as a mirage you cannot use while you're stunned or immobilized. So you generally want to save illusionary ambush as like a stun break sorta, even though it isn't a stun break. It does kind of get you out of a bad situation because it randomly ports you, detargets you, and it gives you that dodge. But you can also just use it for extra pressure on the target or for chasing them and keeping up with them. So I like illusionary ambush because there's just so many uses to it. And then mimic can also be used on it, so you can get 2 of them. And 2 illusionary ambushes can be kind of ridiculous for the amount of pressure that it gives you, because you can do 3 of your dagger ambushes, and then you can do another 2 from illusionary ambush and just do a lot of damage to the target. Or you can use mimic for a double blink to get out of combat. There's just so many options with mimic. I feel like that I really want to take it, but if you really wanted to, you could take resolve or like Signet of Midnight for an extra stun break. So yeah, that's pretty much how you want to be playing the Dagger Mirage. If you like this content, please like the video, subscribe for more, and check out the clips. Thank you to all of my supporters, and I'll see you all next time.